That's right, you're listening to KPFT Houston, and this is Wide Open Spaces. Today, live in the KPFT studio, a singer-songwriter and guitarist who's had a long career, dates back to the early 70s. His music has evolved from new wave to folk rock to solo acoustic. He's in town promoting his new CD, The Case Files, and he's in town also for a show tonight with Steve Poltz at the Mucky Duck. Peter Case, welcome to KPFT.
Hey, Roark, good to be here, man.
Good to see you. You've been here a few times before with Rick Esquerdo, right?
I sure have, man. I've been here a bunch of times over the years.
Well, good to have you back, and you've had a pretty busy year this year so far. Yeah. Tell folks about your little train trip with Dave Alvin.
Oh, yeah, the train. Yeah, I almost forgot about that. Yeah, that was at the start of the spring, I guess. Me and Dave Alvin and Chris Smither went on the road with a bunch of people went with us on this train trip. I guess Dave's been doing these things, but it's called the Kings of California train, and it started down in San Francisco, or started down in Los Angeles, and went on up through San Francisco and on up into the Northwest, and so a whole bunch of people got on the train, and then we were just like playing music and stopping off for gigs, and everybody would come with us to the gigs. It was really fun, There was people from all over the world on the train, and trains are weird, you had to sleep in this place that was like so small that you basically had to go out in the hallway to change your mind, but outside of that, it was cool. It was really fun doing the gigs, and I love Dave Alvin and Chris Smither. We've done stuff before, so it was a gas.
Heck yeah, I bet that was a lot of fun. And you just got back from Europe as well.
True enough. I was over in England. I did about 3 weeks of shows in England, and then I was in a week in Holland and a week in Spain. It was fun. Spain's
a unique stop for an American artist, but you actually tell folks about your history there and why you have such an audience in Spain in the first place.
Well, we were talking about this. My band The Nerves put out a record in 1976. I hate to say it, but it's true. A long time back, it was like one of the first records of the punk era. We weren't really a punk band. We put out this record, and it got picked up. Franco had just passed away. He just died. He was the dictator of Spain, the right-wing dictator. And he died, and everybody was so happy that the clamps were off. That music had been clamped down on before that. And the Nerves record is one of the first records that came in after the things opened up, and so people that summer, the Nerves record was a big record in all the clubs, and people were really happy, and they associate us with freedom, So,
sure.
So I really appreciate that. I feel really lucky to have had that connection. I love going to Spain, and there's a lot of fans there. There's a lot of younger fans there too, and I had a whole band of guys that were like in their early 20s. They learned my songs off the records, and so I got off the plane. I flew from London to Madrid, and then these guys picked me up. It was the night of the huge protest, national protest by a youth protest in Spain. There was like 1 million people in downtown Madrid, centered like 50 yards from the front of the club I was in. And I go into the club, and this band had learned all my material, and they played it louder than the Ramones.
Right.
And they were great, though, like a really great band.
Fantastic. You grew up in Buffalo, New York, and there was a nice little blues scene there while you were growing up.
True enough, I grew up there. I got in a band when I was a kid. I was like 15. I was playing piano in a band called Skull Street Train, we were called. And
cool. Everybody
Everybody in that band was 30 years old except for me. And those guys kind of blew my mind, but they taught me a lot about music and a lot of other stuff too. And it was a good time, But there really was a blues scene because it's up there. It's up there in the Rust Belt, and people came up from Mississippi and from down south to work in the factories, and so there was like Ford plants and steel plants, Chevy plants up in Buffalo, and people would come up and work there in Detroit and Flint and all those different places, and so there was blues all through there, like a real strong blues scene. And so I learned from guys that really knew how to play it and taught me what to do.
Very nice. But there's only so far you can go as a musician in Buffalo, I would imagine. Is that why you moved to San Francisco?
I guess so. When I was there, it was harder to get anywhere out of Buffalo. We used to have that joke in Buffalo, you can't get there from here. But now there's with Ani DeFranco and other bands, people have made it sort of big out of there. But I didn't see the future. I at some point there when I was a teenager, got to go out west, man. So.
And San Francisco was pumping in the early 70s as well.
Well, it was, and the whole West Coast and just the world, a lot of people from Buffalo went down to Texas. A lot of guys that grew up came down here and worked on oil rigs and stuff. And so, people were going up to Alaska, people were going to the West Coast, people were going down here. And so it was just sort of an exodus out of that area. Like I'd say, like, you know, half the population of the city ended up leaving, mostly young people. But I got out there and got involved with music immediately on getting to California. I met this guy that started the first psychedelic band of Mall. He's Mike Wilhelm from the Charlatans. And so he was also in the Flaming Groovies later. I fell in with him. And
Dan Hicks was in that band too.
Hicks was in that band. I met Hicks too, you know. And, I was playing on the street. Hicks used to come up all drunk and get right up in my face and go, "I said play something good." Uh-oh. And stuff like that. He wouldn't. He didn't have anything about going out of his way to go hassle a poor street musician.
Yeah, right.
But
now, you're about 20 years old. You hit San Francisco. It's 1974. Oh, you're playing on the streets? I mean, it must have been a crazy time for you.
Yeah, I got there in 73. It was a crazy time. It was interesting. I wrote a book about it called As Far As You Can Get Without a Passport, and we'll have that at the gig tonight.
Very nice. When was that book released?
Well, a couple years back, you know. There's the second part of it will probably be out later this year, you know. It's sort of a serial, you know. The first one goes from Buffalo to California, and then I go down into Mexico. And it's a true story, you know, set in, you know, on the streets, you know. It's kind of a teenage rock and roll adventure on the streets of San Francisco.
Very nice. We'll pick up there in a minute, but you're going to play one for us. We have Peter Case live in the KPFT studio.
Okie dokie. Well, here we go. Here's a song off an album called Wig.
2010? That was your last
last year.